Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I'm back with a new layout and video for Shimmerz paints, and I'm also going to be sharing the new color kits for September. This is the original kit. It contains a brand new, never sold before color and a set of 3 exclusive dots. And then this is the Missy kit. It's got some aquas, some pinks, golds, exclusive dots to match, and a gorgeous floral ampersand cut file designed by Paige Evans. So this layout is going to be made with the Missy kit. So let me show you the colors. The first one is my most favorite aqua of all time. It's Coloringz Well Blew Me Down. And you can kind of see the powders down in the bottom of it. And to mix that up, the best way to do that is just to roll it back and forth in between your hands. The second color is Shimmerz Pinko de Mayo, and it's ready to go. All you have to do is take a brush and mix up the glittery goodness. This is Inkling's first blush, and it's going to come in a hard little cake, and you have to add water to that one. And then this is also an Inkling's Good as Gold, and it is a beautiful, shiny, shimmery, metallic gold. I love it. These are the exclusive dots. They're made especially to match those colors, and they got a little bit of gold on there as well. And then this is stunning. Paige Evans outdid herself again. Beautiful ampersand, and there's also an ampersand on one of the dots. So yes, I love this. Here's the photo that I'm going to scrap. It's an older picture of my youngest daughter. She was just looking cute one night, snapped some pictures of her, and the way she's got her little pinky near her mouth, she reminds me of Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, even though she's far from evil, but her little pinky there with that mischievous grin, that's what she reminds me of. But anyway, I just thought it was a cute photo, so I'm going to scrap that today. And I'm going to start with some thick white cardstock and some clear gesso. I'm going to smudge that down or scrape that down on pretty much the whole thing here and let that dry. So I think the way I'm going to start this layout is by doing a color wash, so to speak, on the background. Now I'm going to start with the plastic packaging technique. Everybody loves this technique. If you do mixed media, I think so many people have used it, and it's one of my go-to techniques. You just spray some color onto some plastic, turn it over, and smudge it down, and you get this really fun, artsy, messy, splotchy look, and you can control it. You can do as much as you want or as little as you want. But that's kind of where I started here, and my thought process behind this was to have a really pretty aqua background, and then I want to leave the cut file white. Last month I backed the cut file with lots of pinks and purples and greens, so I thought I would do something different and kind of use the cut file as a template, and I'll show you that as I go. Another way to smudge color is with an acrylic stamping block, and I kind of made a boo-boo here and didn't clean it very well the last time I used it as a stamping block or as a paint smudger, and so I got a little bit of pink on there, but it's okay. Adding some water, I'm smudging it down, I'm turning the paper, I'm doing all kinds of things here. My mind just kind of changes as I go. I decided to just forego any more packaging technique or using the block, and just decided to add some water and kind of turn the page different directions, and I love the effect of that too. And the gesso is what is allowing all this running and blending to happen without it soaking right through the paper. So I put that aside for now. I'm going to let that dry, and then here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of trace the flowers and the leaves from the cut file as best as I could, and then I'm going to paint them and cut them out and kind of layer them on top of the cut file. So in a sense, the cut file is acting as a guide, but you're still going to be able to see quite a bit of it. I just wanted to add some things on top of it. So this paper here is from a little mixed media notebook that I have. I think I got it at Michael's, but I think I've seen them at Walmart too. I usually just kind of keep it for scrap test paper, like when I get brand new colors or I want to mix something but I don't want to mix it right away on a layout. I'll just kind of pull up this little notebook and test it out. So I just tore a piece of paper from that, and then I kind of traced all of the leaves and flowers, and then look at this color here. This is so pretty when you mix it up, and you just, oh, it's so pretty. That's the first blush, And then this one here is the Pinko de Mayo. And you can definitely see the difference in the two colors there. And so I'm just going to have a little bit of fun here and just kind of messily paint the colors right onto this paper here. And it's okay if this is messy and outside the lines because I'm going to cut it out. But I just wanted to have some pink flowers here. So here you can definitely see the differences in the pink. The big flower is the Pinko de Mayo, and then these smaller flowers is the first blush. So you've got more of a bubblegummy type pink and then more of a soft baby pink. And when they both dry, they are so shimmery. They have totally different, they're both shimmers or shimmery, but the finishes are slightly different, but very shimmery. Okay, so I pulled a couple of greens from last month's color kit. The Rita on the, oh yeah, I forgot about this big boo-boo. This is what happens when you go too fast and you get too excited. You knock your paint over and you spill it all over your desk. But fear not, this is a good way to save it. I pulled out my little palette knife and scooped it all back up. I wound up having to use my finger, but I got it all back in there. Yeah, be careful and don't freak out if you spill your shimmers because there is a way to save it. I've done it way too many times. Okay, so for the leaves, back to business here. I'm going to mix the Well Blue Me Down with the two greens from last month, the Rita on the Rocks and the Pining for You. So if you got last month's kit, then you probably have these two colors. So I'm just kind of mixing them together and, like I said, making a mess here, painting the leaves. I want them to be green, but I also want them to have the tint of the aqua that is in the kit and it's on the background. But I did want the leaves to be a different color than the background, and so that's why I pulled in some of these greens. I'm also going to mix in some of the Good as Gold, and later on when I show you these leaves up close, oh my goodness, the gold shimmer is just off the charts. Such a pretty gold, and it's definitely a different gold than the Minor 49er. I know I use that one a lot, and I believe that one was in the March kit. The very first kit that we did, I believe it had the Minor 49er. And this Good as Gold, they're both Inklingz, but the Good as Gold is a little more on the yellow side, more of the yellow gold color, but you can be the judge of it later when I show you how it looks up close. Either one of those golds is amazing. So I'm just going to continue to paint here. Now, as with any paint, you know, if you let the first layer dry and then you go back over it with another layer, it's going to be a little darker, it's going to be a little bit more bold. And so you're in total control of how dark or how light, you know, you want to use the colors. The more layers, you can see here I'm adding another layer to this pink and it's getting a little bit more bold. I kind of wanted darker pink on one side and then kind of having it fade out to lighter on the other side. And that's just dependent on how much paint I use, how much water I add. It's not, you know, a perfect science. It's just more of an experiment. Just play around with it. And I didn't add any gesso or anything to this paper here. So this is just straight onto the paper, but like I said, it's mixed media paper, so it's a little bit sturdier than cardstock. So here is a way if you want to make purple with the kits. Pull in the Pinko de Mayo and mix in some of the Well Blue Me Down, and you instantly are going to get a very pretty lavender color, just like that. So that's what I love about Shimmerz, is the mixing and matching to create a brand new color. And so that is another way to stretch your kit to create a fifth color. So I put that aside to dry, and here we go. Now you can start to see the shimmer factor in there, and I'll show you again up close later, but all those colors are super shimmery. So all I'm going to do now is just kind of go through the pencil lines that I can see there and just kind of cut out the flowers and the leaves. And I'm going to tuck my photo right there. I think that's the perfect spot for a photo. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of options, but when I first saw this cut file, I knew right away that's where my photo was going to go. So here's kind of what I was thinking. I'm going to kind of layer the flowers and leaves on top of where they are on the cut file, but I don't want them to be as big like I want them to be kind of off center. Like I don't want to completely cover up that big flower in the middle or the leaves right there on the side. I want them to still be kind of visible behind everything. So I'm going to kind of shift everything so it's not completely covering it up. So I continue to cut everything out, and then I'm going to come back in and work on this flower here. I want it to be a little bit more purple because when it dried, it looked kind of the same color as the big pink flower. So I decided to do a little bit more blending to make more of a purple. And I'm going to come back in. This is the little flower that's above the big pink flower. And I did want to do more blending to kind of make it match the dots a little bit more. And I know this video is a little bit longer, but like I said before in one of my previous longer videos, is, you know, there's a lot going on here, and I try not to cut out, you know, as much of the process as I can. I want to show it because there are, you know, a lot of things that go through my mind. I change my mind here. I decide to add this, and that is part of the process. So I wanted to leave that in. Now I went back to the big pink flower and decided to go kind of around the edge now that it's dry, and it's just going to give the edge a little bit of a darker color. Same thing with these smaller flowers here. And again, I'm just using the Pinko de Mayo for that. And the fun thing I like about this layout is I don't use any pattern paper. Very minimal embellishments because the cut file is so intricate and so detailed. And by the time I've you know, glued down all of the flowers and leaves, and I got my photo there, and then I use the dots that come in the kit, you really don't need a lot more. And so, you know, you don't always have to have pattern paper or a lot of things to make a very full and complete layout. But you know, there's so many options. This cut file, you could make it even bigger to take up the entire background. You could make it smaller to make it more of an accent piece instead of a big design element. So many different options. But yeah, I like using big cut files like this because I think it, like I said, it limits the amount of things that you have to use, and it kind of tells you where your photo should go. And I don't want to say it where the photo should go, but it gives you the perfect place to put the photo, and you don't have to do a lot of thinking about it. So I decided to add some gold splatters here. I go to the Good as Gold, get some water on my brush, get some paint on my brush, and just flick it around to jazz up the background a little bit. And then I took a break, and I came back, and I was in the mood to do some stitching. So I very carefully stitched around the edge of the ampersand and through these leaves. Ooh, see the gold shimmer there? Yes, so pretty. Shimmerz. So pretty. But I used gold metallic thread, and it's definitely not perfect. It's crooked in some places, but I just wanted to add something to the cut file without adding color to it, because like I said, I wanted to leave it white, and I feel like that's a nice subtle detail, but it still gives it a little bit of texture and shimmer, and but still doesn't, you know, it's not something that's distracting. Here's where I decide to add a tiny bit of color. I decided to go around the edges of the cut file with the Pinko de Mayo also, and then I wind up smudging it in a couple places, but in the end I think it winds up looking okay. I'm still leaving it primarily white, but some of the edges do have some pink smudged on it. So I took another break and then decided that I wanted to use some vellum. So I pulled out my last piece of vellum. I need to go to Michael's and get me some more. And I just went for it. I decided to eyeball it and just hand free cut some flowers. And they're not perfect, but that's okay. Again, I'm okay with things not being perfect. And I love the look of vellum. It just gives such awesome detail without being anything that's in color or patterned. So it's not super busy. It's very subtle, but it gives the illusion of more flowers. And you notice that it's there, but it's not in your face. It's not like a big statement piece. What I was showing you there is I made 2 more purple flowers. I used the same technique and same colors as I did earlier to, because I felt like if I had 1 flower that's purple, I wanted a couple more. So now I'm going to start to work on everything else. I added some tissue paper and some adhesive foam behind my photo there. And then I'm going to start to glue things down now. I thought about popping the cut file up using some adhesive foam, but then I decided since I'm going to have all those dimensional flowers on top of it, I'm going to lay the cut file flat. So I glued that just flat down, and then I'm going to go back to my adhesive foam and start to add it behind the flowers. And this is just some adhesive kids craft foam that I get from Walmart. It's in the it's not the scrapbooking aisle, I think it's the next aisle over. It's where all the kids craft stuff is, and I love it. It's adhesive on one side. I decided I needed more leaves since I had more flowers now, so I'm just gonna, again, I hand drew them on some scrap, a little tiny piece of scrap paper, and I'm gonna do the same thing I did earlier. Start with the Well Bloomy Down, and then come in with those 2 greens from last month, the Pining for You and the Rita on the Rocks, and the Good as Gold. And they're so pretty when they're dry. They are so shimmery and just so shimmery. I can't, how many times can I say shimmery? But it's the truth. They are so pretty. I do let those dry, and I machine stitch through those with the gold thread also, since I stitched through the first set of leaves. And then I'm going to cut those out. See the gold? Look at that. Ugh. Yes. If you are as addicted to shimmer as I am, then that Good as Gold is worth it, because it's amazing. So I'm going to cut those out, add those in, and then work in the dots. Now, here's what I decided to do. Since the pink dot and the aqua dot are just slightly different shades, like that's a little bit darker than my background turned out, I decided to kind of add in a couple more darker spots using a gelato, and that's from my stash. It's more of a turquoise color, and when I smudge it down on top of the aqua Well Bloomy Down in the background, it's perfect. It just gives a couple of spots that are a little bit darker than the rest of it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with that pink dot. It's just gorgeous. I can't even describe what pink it is, but it's so bright and pretty. So I'm going to add a little bit of that color with another gelato, kind of the bottom of these little small flowers. And it's just going to help bring in that bold pink. I just love mixing and matching things. I love mixing my gelatos with the Shimmerz, and you know, like I pulled in last month's greens with this month. It's just fun to mix and match things because you just never know what colors you can come up with. So here is my thread. I'm going to add in a little bit of purple underneath the purple flower on the bottom. And then I thought about adding this purple thread right there underneath that pink flower, but it just wound up looking kind of messy and I didn't like it. So I'm going to wind up moving that behind the purple flower up top. Some pink thread over to the right. Yeah, that's where I moved that thread. And it's purple. And honestly, when I first started making this layout, I didn't even think about making a purple. It just kind of came to me as I went. And so I was very pleasantly surprised to see that you can get a purple out of this kit. So here's what I've got so far. I glued everything down. I'm loving the colors. I'm loving the dimension. And of course the shimmer. So pretty. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about now. You can still see the cut file kind of peeking through the flowers. I decided to jazz up the middle of a lot of the flowers using some sequins. These are from Spiegel Mom Scraps. They're from my stash. I love her sequins. You can kind of see there, I didn't want to make you watch me glue them all down, but I glued down a little cluster of them to all the vellum flowers and then a little bit of the big pink flower. So here's where the few embellishments are going to come from. I pulled out that awesome sticker book from Heidi Swapp, and there's this whole sheet of gold metallic words. And so I decided to go with one of those, and I'm going to go with cuteness. And I do want to, you see how bright in the light those gold stickers are? I like to kind of tone that down a little bit. So I just smudged some white gesso over it, and it's still metallic and shiny, just not as blinding gold shiny. So I'm going to add cuteness right down there in the bottom of the ampersand. It was the perfect place. And then I added in a couple of gold hearts, and then I found this pink ampersand a couple pages later. I had to use it because, you know, ampersand, and it was the perfect color. So I added that in, and then I'm going to come in with more gold splatters, again from Good as Gold, and then I'm going to use a gold pen to write in my journaling just a couple things down here at the bottom. And then that is going to wrap it up. I did add the date, but that's the final layout. I love how this turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you got inspired, or maybe got an idea or two to try on your next project. I hope you get this kit. It is so pretty. I can't say that enough. This cut file is just, it's beautiful. And I love the dots. I think everything just kind of coordinates really, really well. And yeah, I took a ton of close-ups. Yeah, I go crazy with the close-ups because I just want to get every angle that I can to show you the colors, the shimmer, the texture, all of it. Look at that gold. So, so pretty. And here I tried to show you the shimmers and the light from my window. Yeah. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the Missy kit is $18.95 and the original kit is $15.95. And you can get those starting today over in the Shimmerz store. So let me know if you have any questions. I will see you guys in my next video, and thank you so much for watching.